the year you finally speak differently. It's a new year again. New goals, new notebooks, new promises to yourself. You tell yourself, this year, I'll finally speak better. You open YouTube, take notes, repeat the same English tips you've heard 100 times. But when it's time to speak, your voice trembles. Your mind goes blank. And once again you think, maybe I'm just not good at this. But here's something you might have missed. The problem isn't your grammar or your vocabulary or even your accent. It's your mindset. Because communication is not just what you say. It's what you believe about yourself when you say it. Most people spend years collecting techniques. How to sound confident, how to stand, how to breathe. But very few ever look at the beliefs that live underneath their voice. It's like a chef who collects recipes but never actually cooks. You read, you memorize, you prepare, but you never feel ready. So you stay silent, hoping one day the fear will disappear. The truth? It never does, until you change the way you think about speaking. This year, 2025, let it be the year you stop chasing perfection and start building presence. Because once you shift your mindset, everything about your communication changes. The nervousness fades. Your words flow easier. Your tone becomes warmer. People start listening, not because your grammar is flawless, but because your energy feels real. In this story, you'll learn 6 powerful mindset shifts that will help you master communication. In your work, your relationships, your English, not through tricks, but through truth. So take a deep breath. Forget every rule you've learned. And get ready to see communication in a way you never have before. Shift 1. From self-conscious to service-conscious. Do you know what happens every time you speak in public and feel your heart racing? Your body isn't betraying you. It's protecting you. It thinks you're in danger because deep inside, you've made the conversation about you. You're thinking, what if I forget? What if they laugh? What if I sound stupid? What if I fail? Each what if is a small mirror turning your attention back to yourself, and the more you stare into that mirror, the more nervous you become. That's the paradox. Nervousness isn't a sign that you can't speak. It's a sign that you're too focused on yourself while speaking. But the moment you turn your focus outward, everything changes. Imagine this. You're about to speak to 10 people. Instead of asking, what do they think of me? Ask, how can I serve them? How can my words make them feel seen, understood, less alone? When you make that switch from self-conscious to service-conscious, your energy shifts instantly. The hands stop shaking. The voice finds rhythm. The fear becomes purpose. Because you're no longer performing, you're serving. It's like standing on a stage with 1,000 lights shining on you. And instead of hiding, you turn around and shine one light back to the audience. That's presence. That's connection. Vin once said, I've spoken to thousands. The moment I stopped performing for approval, I started connecting for impact. And you can do the same, starting today. Before your next conversation, try this. Close your eyes. Take one deep breath. Picture one person who might need to hear what you're about to say. Not the whole room, just one soul. Speak to them, gently, honestly, completely. Even if it's just one listener, you've already succeeded. Because connection isn't measured by how many people hear you, but by how many hearts you reach. So next time the fear rises, don't fight it. Shift it. Tell yourself, this isn't about me. It's about the message. You'll be amazed. The moment you stop worrying about how you sound, you'll start sounding like yourself. And that is the voice people will never forget. Shift 2. From rambling to clarity. You know that moment when someone talks, and you nod politely, but your mind has already left the room? They mean well. They're passionate. But every sentence feels like a hallway with no exit. And sometimes, that person is you. You start explaining something simple, then suddenly you're adding one more detail, one more example, one more, by the way, until you forget where you began. We don't do it because we're bad speakers. We do it because we care too much. And we're afraid of missing something important. But here's the truth. Clarity isn't about saying everything. It's about knowing what matters most. The mind loves to wander. The mouth loves to follow. So when you speak without direction, your words become noise, even if they're true. There's a simple fix. A quiet, powerful tool I learned from one of Vin's talks. Before you say anything, begin with this line. The one thing you need to know is... That single sentence forces your mind to focus. It tells your thoughts to line up behind one clear idea. Watch what happens when you use it. Without it, you might say, magic is fascinating. It's about illusion, hand speed, technique, psychology, audience reaction, and you keep going, endlessly. But with it, you say, the one thing about magic you need to know is showmanship matters more than technique. Suddenly, your words have gravity. Your listener knows what to hold on to, and you sound certain, grounded, clear. That's the power of the one thing. You can also use its cousins, the two things, or the top three things. They help your audience and your brain find structure, even in chaos. Try this exercise tonight. Take any topic, your job, your dream, your fear, and finish this sentence. The one thing about the one thing you need to know is, do it once a day for a week. You'll notice your thoughts start sharpening, your sentences shorten, your ideas breathe. Because clarity is not born from speed. It's born from stillness. When you pause to find your one thing, your words start landing exactly where they should. And people feel it. They lean in. They understand faster. They remember longer. You'll realize the most powerful speakers aren't the ones who say the most, but the ones who leave the right silence between their words. So slow down, find your one thing, and let every other noise fall away. Because in the end, the clearest voice doesn't speak to impress. It speaks to connect. Shift 3. From boring to magnetic. You can speak clearly and still lose the room. You can know every rule and still see eyes drift away. Because clarity makes you understood, but energy makes you remembered. Some people think, my topic is boring. My job isn't creative. My story isn't exciting. But here's the secret. It's not the topic that's boring. It's the delivery. You can talk about physics and make the world fall in love with the stars. You can talk about finance and make people feel hope about their future. It's not what you say. It's how alive you are when you say it. Do you remember Neil deGrasse Tyson? He didn't make science simpler. He made it alive. Every sentence felt like stardust and wonder. That's magnetism. Magnetism happens when your inner world touches the outer world, when your excitement becomes visible, when your curiosity leaks through your words, when your joy turns into rhythm. You see, the world doesn't need perfect communicators. It needs alive ones. And being alive on stage or in conversation doesn't mean being loud. It means being present. Try this simple shift. Instead of asking, how can I sound smart? Ask, how can I make this moment feel alive? Maybe it's through a metaphor, turning a dry concept into an image. Instead of saying, our data shows slow growth, say, our progress is like a small tree. You can't see the height change every day, but it's growing roots beneath the soil. Now your listener sees it. They feel it, or maybe it's through humor. A small laugh is a bridge between two nervous hearts, or maybe it's through silence, because silence, too, is a form of energy. When you pause, the audience breathes with you. They lean in. They wait. And in that stillness, you hold them. Not with your words, but with your presence. So if you ever think, my topic is boring, remember this. You don't need to be entertaining. You just need to be engaged. Because engagement is contagious. When you care deeply, people will feel it, even before they understand it. The human heart doesn't crave information. It craves emotion. So bring emotion into your explanations. Bring warmth into your structure. Bring life into your logic. When you do, you'll stop presenting information and start transmitting energy. That's how you turn a boring voice into a magnetic one. Shift 4. From traits to storytelling. Every job interview begins the same way. A smile, a handshake, and that one familiar question. So, tell me a little about yourself? Most people panic. They list their traits like a resume out loud. I'm punctual, I'm responsible, I'm hardworking. But here's the thing, traits don't connect. Stories do. Because a story is not just information, it's emotion with structure. It's a bridge between what you've done and who you are. You could list 10 facts about yourself and no one will remember. Or you could tell one true story and they'll remember you for years. Imagine this. You're in an interview. They ask the question. And instead of listing your strengths, you smile and begin. When I was in college, I dropped my accounting degree to pursue something strange. Magic? My parents were disappointed. But what I loved about magic was solving problems others couldn't see. You pause, you breathe, then you finish. And that's why I believe I'd be a great head of innovation. Because I never stopped trying to solve the impossible. Suddenly the room changes. They lean in. They remember you. Not because you said the right thing, but because they felt something. Storytelling isn't about performance. It's about proof. Emotional proof. When you tell a story, you let people see your character in action. They don't have to believe your words. They experience your truth. You don't need a dramatic story. You just need a real one. Think of a time you overcame fear, learned something the hard way, or made someone's day better. That's all you need. A heartbeat moment. Because stories are mirrors. When you share yours, people find themselves in it. Here's a small practice. Take any question you might face. What motivates you? What's your biggest strength? What's a challenge you've faced? Instead of answering directly, start with, let me tell you a quick story. Keep it short, under a minute. But fill it with feeling. Give it a setting, a choice, and a change. You'll notice. Your energy rises. Your confidence returns. Because you're not reciting lines anymore. You're reliving a memory. And when your memory feels alive, your words carry that life too. That's why storytelling isn't just for authors or speakers. It's for anyone who wants to be understood. In every conversation, every meeting, every message, you have a choice. List facts or share truth. Facts make people think. Stories make people feel. And when they feel, they remember. So next time someone asks, tell me about yourself, don't tell them your resume. Tell them your reason. Because your story, told with honesty and warmth, isn't just about where you've been. It's a whisper of where you're going next. Shift 5. From fear to freedom. You felt it before. That tiny knot in your chest when someone looks at you a little too long. That voice inside whispering, "Don't say that. Don't stand out. Don't sound different." You start to shrink. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you're afraid to be seen saying it. Fear of judgment. Fear of comments. Fear of being misunderstood. But here's the truth. You will be judged anyway. Even silence gets judged. So if you're going to be judged, at least be judged for being authentic. There's a quote I love by Theodore Roosevelt, made famous again by Brené Brown. It's called "The Man in the Arena." It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the one who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Every time I read it, I imagine the faces of people trying to grow, trying to change, while a crowd of invisible critics throws words from the dark. But the truth is, those critics are never in the arena. They don't know what it feels like to stand there, trembling, to try, to fail, to rise again. So stop taking advice from people who aren't fighting your battles. If they're not in the arena with you, their opinion is just noise. And remember this too. If you try to please everyone, you'll end up pleasing no one. Because the more you chase approval, the further you drift from your own voice. So what if someone thinks you're too much? Too emotional? Too serious? Too passionate? Good. It means you're finally visible. And here's the quiet truth that frees you once you see it. People think about you far less than you imagine. You're worried about how you sounded in that meeting, but they're worried about whether they locked their car or if they bought the wrong brand of butter. That's the spotlight effect. We all think the light is on us, when everyone else is lost in their own script. So the next time that fear rises, pause, smile gently, and remind yourself, they're not watching me. They're watching themselves. Then speak anyway, because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing truth despite fear. Every time you open your mouth and let your voice be heard, you step into the arena, dust, sweat, blood, and light. And that light is freedom. Freedom from opinions, freedom from hesitation, freedom from the imaginary eyes that once controlled you. Speak not to be perfect. Speak to be free. Because once you've spoken your truth, no critic can ever silence you again. Shift 6 from waiting to immersing. How many times have you said, "I'll start when I'm ready"? Ready to speak, ready to lead, ready to change? But readiness never comes. Because readiness isn't a feeling. It's a decision. There's a quiet trap many learners fall into. They keep preparing, but they never practice. They collect notes, watch tutorials, highlight quotes, but rarely open their mouths. And so, months pass. Confidence never comes. Because confidence doesn't come before you speak. It comes from speaking. Vin once told this story about his vocal teacher. He said, "She looked at me, called me a silly young man, and said, 'Every time you open your mouth, that's practice.'" That one sentence changed everything. Because think about it. A musician doesn't wait for an audience to start playing. They practice alone in small rooms with wrong notes and slow fingers. A dancer doesn't wait for applause. They train when no one's watching. So why do we wait for the right moment to speak? The truth is, every moment is practice. The way you order coffee, the way you greet your friend, the way you talk to yourself in the mirror. That's all communication training. Every time you open your mouth, you're sculpting the voice. that will one day carry your dreams. So stop waiting for opportunities. Start creating them. If no one will listen, talk to yourself. Record your thoughts. Shadow a movie scene. Speak your gratitude out loud before bed. Because immersion isn't about location. It's about repetition. It's not about moving to another country. It's about moving through your fears, again and again, until your voice stops shaking. When you immerse, something subtle happens. Your mistakes stop feeling like failures. They become feedback. Your fear of judgment fades. Your ear sharpens. Your rhythm softens. One day you'll speak and realize you didn't translate the sentence in your head first. It just flowed, like water finding its path. That's the magic of immersion. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your preparation. So prepare daily. Not someday. Not when life slows down. Not when you feel ready. Now, let 2025 be the year you stop practicing silence and start practicing speech. Because silence trains fear. Speaking trains freedom. Don't wait for a stage. Your life is the stage. Every call, every laugh, every whisper is a rehearsal for the voice you're becoming. And when the real moment arrives, that interview, that meeting, that dream, you won't be lucky. You'll just be ready. The declaration of the voice. Remember how this story began? A new year, a notebook, a promise to finally speak differently. And now look at you. You've walked through every hidden layer of what it truly means to communicate. You've learned that nervousness isn't weakness. It's misdirected focus. That clarity isn't about saying more. It's about meaning more. That energy isn't volume. It's presence. That stories don't just describe who you are. They reveal it. That fear doesn't disappear. It transforms. And that growth isn't waiting. It's immersing. 6 shifts. 6 small truths. Each one a door back to your natural voice. The voice you had before the world told you to compare, to compete, to hide, to sound perfect. That old voice, the one buried under self-doubt, is still waiting, quiet, patient, alive. It doesn't need to be trained. It needs to be trusted. So take this with you. Communication isn't a skill you perform. It's a reflection of how open your heart is in the moment you speak. It's not just words leaving your mouth. It's your presence, your truth, your energy. And the more you use it, the clearer it becomes. You don't have to sound like anyone else. You don't have to wait for the right time. You don't have to chase confidence. You build it one word at a time. Every conversation you have from now on is another chance to practice, to serve, to connect, to be real. So when that familiar fear returns, when your hands start to shake, just whisper to yourself, "It's not about me. It's about the message." And then, speak anyway, because you were never meant to sound small. You were meant to sound alive. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your preparation. So prepare with intention. Practice with joy. Speak with soul. And let 2025 be the year your voice finally meets the person you've been becoming all along.